I felt comfortable enough to ask Jimmy if he felt bad for killing 3 people. He bluntly said, "No, I don't feel bad for killing people. I just cut their life short." He goes, "Because I was high on drugs when I did that." I said, "That still has nothing to do with me. If I would not have bought drugs from people like you on the outside, I would have never killed someone. But someone like you made drugs more abundant and more plentiful where I was able to obtain them." He goes, "I never would have killed somebody if I was high." I thought about, the 3 people that he killed, his family members, and the question went through my mind, is Jimmy right? Am I morally responsible, just as culpable for things that other people did while they were high on drugs? Mm-hmm.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Billy Collins.
Matt Doje.
And this is Magician.
And the Jock.
Installment number 4 of the Chad Hollamon saga.
Yeah, a life worth commenting on.
I think it's everyone's enjoying it. I get compliments. I get people that are stopping me on the streets about this, which is odd.
I actually did too. I got recognized at the arcade in Moorhead. They're like, "Man, you did a great job in that thing with Chad." I'm like, "Thanks, bro."
At the arcade, huh?
Yeah. Hey, go with arcade. You know what? They like Pac-Man and Chad.
You have a story that a lot of people could look at and be like, "Woe is me, like why did it all come to this?" But you are capitalizing on it. In the first 3 episodes, we did what got him to prison.
Yeah.
The initial going into Big Sandy.
Now we're heading on to, you just got sent or transferred to Coleman.
You had spent around 5 years at the first penitentiary.
Exactly, around 5 years. And I was designated to USP Coleman within 2 weeks. They had me on a special bus, to go there. And
is that like the short bus?
I think so.
No, usually we have transportation that goes every other week, but sometimes they'll have special buses come, like if the shoe is overcrowded or if they need to get rid of someone. So they had a special bus. It wasn't short by no means. It was a regular bus. It was just a special bus that came and it got me and about 10 other individuals, from Big Sandy. And I didn't go straight to Coleman. A lot of times when you're in transit, with the feds, you go from one hellhole to the next, hellhole. It's never a straight shot, hardly ever. 99% of the time you're going somewhere or someplace, between here and there.
Well, I would think, because Sandy's in, you said?
Kentucky.
Yeah, I say Kentucky.
And just to take a school bus to Moorhead to Atlanta Beach takes you 2 days.
That's right.
So it's a long drive.
You had a bus because Coleman's in Florida.
Coleman's in Florida. So eventually I took a 7 or 8 hour bus ride from Big Sandy in the mountains to back to Atlanta. And Atlanta is kind of this huge processing center. It's pretty much the hub of the East Coast. You ever fly Delta or certain airlines? Mm-hmm. That's how it is. That's the hub for the feds, and it is in Atlanta. So it's this unique place. It's been there for 120, 130 years. You drive in this corridor, Sallyport type area, and then that's when you get off the bus, one by one, and they're take you to the belly of the prison, to different parts of it. There's actually a prison there too where people are doing time, but half of it's a processing center. They have different floors. I think they have 2 or 3 different floors. Depending on what level of security you're at, that's where you're going to. There at Atlanta, when you get there, you're pretty much locked down every day for 24 hours, with the exception of every 3rd day you get out for 1 hour, take a shower, to use phone calls, and now they have the email system, set up so you can actually email people. It's a guarded system.
I can imagine they're processing you okay, this is your level, this is where you're coming from, and it's just, do you feel like you're getting herded like cattle?
Oh yeah, I mean, and not only just when you pull up, you're only halfway done.
Right.
And I mean that because you're about to have a long day, because they won't hurry up and get you off the bus, but now you have to wait in these separate tanks. You got to go to this tank, and you got to get strip searched, and you got to get new clothes, and you got to talk to the doctor, then you got to talk to to the captain's secretary. It's all these people you have to talk to, and the whole time they're just making you wait and wait and wait and wait. So you might wait 10, 12 hours sometimes to be able to go up. So by the time you go up, you're tired as crap. You just want to go to sleep. You don't care where they put you at. They can put you on the floor. You don't care at that time because you just want to go to sleep because you're so tired from the 8-hour bus ride or however long it was, all the way to the waiting in the holding tanks, for unknown amount of time.
Did you know when you got to Atlanta that you were going to be going to Coleman?
Oh, yeah.
I think it was the first episode or the second one we were saying you seem like someone who's never met a stranger, but you're like, well, on that bus to Big Sandy, they were all strangers. They were nobody I wanted to be friends with. You had no idea what you were getting into. Like, give us an example of something that would be a normal thing to ask somebody on the streets in the free world that in prison could get you in trouble.
What you in here for? Yeah, what you in here for? That comes in time. When you get to know people, it's not so bad. Because if you build rapport with someone and you hang out with a guy, you want to know his background a little bit.
It's gonna be organic.
Yeah, and you can't just ask some random guy what you in here for. There's other things too. Not by top of my head, but there's certain things you don't talk about.
Right.
I did pretty good at Big Sandy, and part of it was not only being friendly, but my mom, she was real big on having my manners, having good manners, and that helped me out a whole lot at Big Sandy. It took me a little bit to figure that out, but having good manners is recognized by people that is on the outside in the free world, and they're recognized in prison too. If a guy has good manners and other people recognize that. Sometimes it's perceived as soft, so you have to kind of be careful how much of a gentleman you are, how nice you are, because people can read through it and they might think that you're weak.
You don't want to come out as a
but
simp.
it is a good certain point, how you talk to someone, as an equal, not talking down with someone, anything like that. It helps out a lot, and that gave me the confidence that I needed when I was going to Coleman. So when I was on that bus to Coleman, I felt comfortable asking guys where they come from and things like that, and kind of have a good time going to Coleman.
So you would describe Coleman as a little bit more laid back than Sandy was.
Oh yeah. I processed it at Coleman. They got us off the bus. They gave us our bedroll, and we were actually in a great mood because we heard these good things about Coleman. It wasn't this crazy dangerous place that guys got to. It was a place you can get to. You could make money while you were there. The guards were laid back. They didn't give you a hard time. So we were kind of looking forward to it. Mm-hmm. So at that time, I had a little more than 30 years in prison left. And I didn't know how long I had to go to penitentiary. So if I would go to a penitentiary, this was ideal. Yeah. So I was in a great mood. Yeah. You know what I mean? At that time, we didn't talk much about me joining the gang at Big Sandy, but I was a Aaron Circle member, going there. I already have my bros when I got there.
Right.
So no matter what, whatever area circle is there, that's going to be my card. That's who I want to hang out with. And as soon as they let us out in the yard, there's inmates everywhere, and they're all on the rec fence looking because they knew the new guys are coming.
Fresh meat.
Yeah. Well, no, it's different. My mom asked me this the other day, and this is for the people watching too. She asked me the other day, How did you ever see a rape? I said, Mom, you watch too many movies.
That's a specific question.
I said, you watch too many movies. People ask that because they think that.
It's perception.
Yeah.
And I said, here's the deal. There are so many homosexuals in prison, dudes that ain't got to rape nobody. Now, I'm not saying it don't happen because I did see, one rape, during the 2 decades I was locked up, nearly 2 decades. But it's not rampant. It's not rampant, and people use that phrase from the movies, fresh meat, fresh meat. No, when you walk on the yard, when I walk in the yard at Coleman, guys at the fence, hey Chad, there's guys from you at Big Sandy. I'm like, oh crap, this is pretty cool, and pretty much, you kind of hold eye contact with everybody, but for the white guys, you give them a second glance, see if he looks familiar or not, and that's what everybody does. When the black guys get out there looking, for other black guys in their car, like if they step off the gas, hey, where the Crips at? Hey, over here, cuz, over here, and that's where he goes and talks to them. Well, when I got off, hey, Chad, come here. So, we went over to the fence, and we did a little secret handshake through the fence. It was the area circle members. There's about 8 or 10 of them, and they pretty much, hey, go put your stuff, your property, in your room. Come back out and let's hang out. So that was, my first, walk on the yard there, and it was sunny too. I mean, it was the beginning of the winter, or it was like in November, so it was late fall.
Oh, perfect weather.
Perfect weather. I mean, it was beautiful compared to was Big Sandy. It was cold all the time. I go put my stuff up, and I ran back outside, and I was introduced to something that I was not prepared for. I heard good things about Coleman, but when you walk on the yard, they've got this big old speaker system in the middle of the yard, and they're playing whatever music. They'll go from rap to country, and it's just inmates just playing music, on there. So I'm like, this is different. Then you walk in different parts of the yard. You got guys, you got your card tables. Guys are playing cards. They look up at you, wave at you. You got your guys playing basketball. People watching basketball. People out in the yard. And I go to the section of the yard where they're selling everything. Used radios, used wallets. Used shoes. You name it. It had everything out here.
Like a market. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a flea market. And as you walk more, people walk by. Got them bombs. I got them bombs. I looked at, the guy beside me. I said, what the hell is a bomb? He goes, you're different, man. You got your cigarette bombs. You got your weed bombs. And I was like, all right, I appreciate it. So then people are selling shine. They're selling, whatever. You got that H. There are all kinds of drugs that you can buy, while you were there. Like I said, just like like a little flea market. So I was like, this is something that, I'm not used to.
And they're just doing this. I feel like they're doing this, and like the COs are just eating hot dogs, talking to inmates as they're going.
And that was the beauty thing about Coleman. There, as long as there wasn't much violence there, they left you alone. They let inmates do what they wanted to do. They were kind of hands off. And the unique thing about Coleman to Big Sandy, how I compare. At Big Sandy, you had guys that weren't nobody that wanted to be somebody.
Right.
At Coleman, you already had notorious gangsters, notorious drug dealers, notorious everything that were already somebody. They just want to lay back and do their time.
Yeah.
That's it. And walking that yard, I've met a lot of people in that yard that I've seen on TV. I've seen on Cold Case. I've seen documentaries on. So it blew my mind, meeting these guys from all over the country that, they are somebody. But it was just super laid back atmosphere. We're just, yes, we're in prison, but it's okay. We're gonna have a good time. And the thing about the difference between the guards at Coleman, we were nice to them.
Yeah.
Nicer than we were at Big Sandy, because Big Sandy, they try to be hard on us too. At Coleman, they walk around with a smile on their face. So it put a smile on our face too, and we can kind of laugh and cut up with them a little bit. But at the same time, we kept our car clean. And you pretty much kept violence to a minimum. Violence is going to happen there, no matter what. But it's kept to a minimum. It was only when it was called for, and that was the unique thing about being there. So,
you mentioned a couple times car. What is it?
Car is your group. That's who you ride with.
I got you. Okay.
Most time it's from whatever gang you're in, or geographically from. It may be in an Aryan Circle. Aryan Circle was my car. But also, I related a lot to guys from, the Southeast, especially from North Carolina. That was kind of, how you do it. Like in the state prison system, if you're in North Carolina State Prison, you go in like whatever county you're from. Mm-hmm. You Carteret County? That's your car right there. You're from Raleigh? You're in the Raleigh car. It don't even matter if you don't like the guy. That's your car, no matter what, because you're from the same area. You can kind of pick and choose your friends, but for the most part, that's how it went. I might have cared for some of the, the Aryan Circle gang members, which ended up being the case because the one at Big Sandy, they were, you got super close to all of them.
They were your friends first.
Exactly. And then the ones I got to, Coleman, they were kind of forced upon me. I we were okay, most of them. A couple of them, I just didn't agree. They did things they weren't, supposed to, and we just kind of bumped heads a little bit, which is no big deal. That's life. Yeah. We still made it work.
Well, you're going to do that no matter what. If you're in or out, you're going to bump heads with somebody.
Exactly.
At some point.
My first day at Coleman, I was happy. It put me in a good mood. It put me in a good mood because I went from one of the hardest penitentiaries to now a penitentiary that's not so hard, and I could do my time here. And hopefully I don't have to be here for the next 30-some years, but if I had to, be anywhere, it'd be at Coleman right then. Right. Just how laid back it was.
So that was kind of like, how would you describe it for people that haven't been in? Is it like you finished a workout and it's like a fresh air, just like, or you just went through something grueling and now you're into a place where you could relax? What was that feeling that
you could let loose? You
have to be
can
so
let
on
loose.
guard.
Like at Big Sandy, you got to walk around with your boots on everywhere. You got to sleep with a shank on you. You got to take a shower with a shank tied on you. As at Coleman, I mean, you had a shank. You had access to one, but I didn't have to tie around my boxer shorts. I didn't have to hide it. On me. I left it inside. If I need it, I would carry it. And over the next few weeks, I would find out how much laid back Coleman is. I mean, this is our routine. We woke up. I woke up in the morning time to eat breakfast. I didn't miss no meals. But for the most part, we all slept all day. But I would go back and to the unit. I'd go sleep for a couple more hours. Everybody else did. About 12 o'clock, everybody waking up. They're talking about the hangovers they had from the night before. And then we talk about, all right, what we're going to do today? We're going to play a game of softball. We're going to go play some volleyball. There's always something to do there because we're always going outside and the weather's nice.
Right.
So it was kind of let's go make some money. Let's go have a good time. Let's go do something. So we were out in the yard all the time because that's how it was. And in the book, I talk about we had a karaoke machine out in the yard, man. And when I saw that, I said, this can't be real. There's no way you have a karaoke machine out in the yard. But actually, it has a designated night. It was like Wednesday nights. And so guys would purposely, they would buy, whatever, moonshine, hey, weed, whatever it was. We go hang out there and just act a fool. Just act a fool on that karaoke machine.
I can imagine just hearing Carolina girls. Like, damn, Chaz on the mic again. Killing that beach music.
But it was all of it. And not only that, there was the racial tension, which is...
That's what I was going to ask about. The politics sounded like they were crazy at Sandy.
Yep.
That's true. Anytime you hear anything about in California on the West Coast.
My best friend was a guy from Jamaica called Jatu. Jatu, he's this guy had dreads, past his knees. And from day one, after I met him, that was my dude. And I had to do certain things with the air and circle car at times. But for the most part, man, me and Jatu were on the track. We just walking around, laughing, cutting up, smoking a joint, and just talking about everything. And I hung out with a lot of people in that yard. I mean, out of the 1,200-1,500 people that was there, I knew pretty much every single one of them. But and it was they know you not the first name. They knew what you're in there for. You tend to know each other. So yeah, like with Ja too, I got to know people even more so because of his background, his culture.
Yeah.
I got real cool with a lot of the blacks over there because Ja too was looked at too as a free spirited person. So have this guy as one of my main men there, it made everything better. And we had a good time, man. We had a good time. And I remember one time being in the cell with Ja too, and we had about 20 people in the cell. You can only fit 3 or 4 in there without being crowded. So we're all in there. We were smoking weed. We were passing around moonshine, and a cop came to the door. Opened the door up, but he seen everybody. He was like white, black, Spanish, white, black, Spanish. It was all mix of people. Door opened up. He's like, "Oh my God!" He was like, "But at least you guys are multicultural though. You guys ain't racial in here, so y'all have a good time." Just close the door. You just busted out laughing.
Almost like it returned some humanity back to you. That Sandy might have, because you were pretty innocent, young when you went into Sandy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of football camp. No chicks, a lot of dudes hanging out that probably would never hang out in the real world. Mm-hmm. But you're here, so like,
make the best of it.
Yeah. Would you say that's the biggest difference? That and Sandy, just the...
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a huge contrast. And, the biggest thing, we'll talk about football, for example. When I was at Big Sandy, we did an all-white guys football team. That's what you did there. I mean, it was just all, that's how racialized everything was for us.
Guys, this is bullshit.
Yeah, it's just like,
we keep losing.
It's all brothers. So, and not only that is... I remember one year, one of our players didn't have cleats. So he was out there. He didn't want to mess his new shoes up. So he was barefooted. So a couple of white guys said, well, let's all go barefooted. I'm like, are you serious? There's just rocks everywhere here. You want to play barefooted? So I had to join the crowd. So I was a wide receiver at the time and a tight end. So now all the white guys are crazy enough. Now we're barefooted playing against, a bunch of brothers. So yeah, it was insane where everything was racialized there, everything was separated. So now when I was at this new place at Coleman, you didn't have an all white team. You know, it wasn't segregated. It was, you know, if they fuck with you, you can be on their team. A lot of times we went by the unit, but we just told the guards, oh, we're doing by unit. We got this. You know what I mean? We just did what we wanted to do. So you're pretty much
Self-governed.
yeah, and we just formed our own teams. And you know, I was on a team with only like two or three white guys, and you know, and I played tight end for you know for one of the teams, and not only was it, you know, fun, but they treat it like a pro sport. I mean, we got like nice uniforms out there, and we have this intercom system that we talk about. So before the game, they have this music going. They'll start introducing everybody to coming out on the field.
And pep rally.
Yeah, and like the whole compound's out there. So you got to show off because you know what happens in that game, the whole compound's gonna talk about it all week long. So yeah, I love going out there, man. And you know, I was I think 31 years old at that time, and you know, I was in you know pretty good physical peak, and I did really well. Did really well, you know, going out there, and you know during the week, you know, after the games, you know, they would talk about some of the plays that I had, or some plays that I did, and we got rough. We got rough, but it was a good thing. You know, we go out and took frustration out of each other. Took some hits, but we got to dish some hits out. Guys would get hurt, but they leave it on the field. We didn't go back to the housing unit and stab each other and bite each other's noses and ears off. It was just, man, that was a trip. You know, seeing that day. We were bruised up, bloodied, and everything else, but. Man, it's okay. We'll get better in a few days. We'll get you back next week. We'll get you back next time. So I had a great time, you know, during these, you know, volleyball games, these basketball games. You know, basketball I didn't play. I'm horrible at basketball, but just watching them, it was so fun. Watching these different sport events. Had such a great time, during that. And
it was always a distraction. Always something.
Yeah. We hung up the white guys, but it wasn't us versus them, all the time. And, including the guards. I mean, you didn't have that mentality against the guards. I mean, they're still considered our enemy, so to speak. But we're not going to go talking trash to you just for no reason. We're going to treat you respectfully and hope you do the same thing with us. For the most part, that's what happened. I don't even think my cell got shook down while I was there. If it did, they don't even, look for anything or found anything. It was just so laid back, and
Now, was that a result of, because we always hear about like prison reform, and that sounds like a place that's doing it right. Not saying like, hey, it should be a blast. Is that a result of the policies, result of the type of prisoners that are there?
It depends on the warden. Who you have as a warden from the top, that's what dictates everything. I've been, I talk about other prisons later on. When you ever have a female warden or you have a new warden, it's not going down like that. It's these old school wardens. They know how to govern. And I'm not being sexist or anything, but when these women come in,
They try to prove themselves.
They try to prove themselves they can do things better, and it just creates so much tension on the population. Like, for example, if we get a woman, warden, she comes in and makes all these new rules. Like, for example, when I go take a shower, I hate putting a shirt on when I take a shower. So I like dry off a little bit. So, I would walk from the shower to my cell. But for example, you get this new woman warden, she would enforce the rule, you have to have a shirt on at all times in the unit. So if I'm walking from the shower, it's just stuff. It's like, man, what does it matter for? I'm in a men's prison. So there's a lot of other stuff too, but that's kind of, how was it Coleman? The Coleman, we had an old school warden. He knew if he could let some stuff go, it would be more laid back, and it worked. Mm-hmm. And it worked. Violence happened there. People got killed every now and then. Very rarely, maybe every 3 or 4 months. Stabbings did happen maybe once a week. But it was at Big Sandy. Big Sandy, it was every day someone was getting stabbed. And I'm talking 3 or 4 times a day. So it was just constant build up. Then not only that, at Big Sandy, when something happened, they took something away. So guys got to the point, I don't want to be here no more. You're going to take everything away, including the benches on the rec yard. What do I want to be here for? Right. So at Coleman, they took things away if need be, but it wasn't all the time. And then they try to give a little bit back. If they did take something from us, okay, guys, we're taking this because of that, but we're going to give you this right here. It just ran, so much smoother, and it was nice having a warden and a captain too. But at Coleman, that was approachable. When you go to the chow hall, you can see them every day, and you can say whatever you want to them. Now, the inmate convict code, the convict code, is to always have someone there with you when you're talking to them. But you can just go up to the warden. Hey, I noticed the last couple of days the moves have been slow. Man, we're trying to keep a routine here. Mr. Hollamon, I'll look into that, okay? He don't really apologize, but say I'll look into it. So it makes you feel better that that you can go to this guy with a problem. Now, if you went to the one at Big Sandy, if you can even find them, they laugh at you, tell you to go somewhere.
Not to mention, everybody's probably like, "Oh, that's a snitch. He's talking to who?"
Oh yeah,
it just seems like the politics were so much tighter.
Yeah, so usually you have to have somebody with you all the time,
right,
for a staff member, but yeah, that was a big difference with the wardens. The warden, is from the top down. That's where it's at. And if you have a warden that's new or that's just newly hired in the system or just got moved up, yeah, it's going to be a tough one there. And that's from me from being locked up almost 2 decades. And the female wardens were hard too. And I'm not trying to be a sexist by no means. It just does not work at a men's prison.
Yeah,
I just see like a warden is a person, or a prison is supposed to like help that person be functional in society.
Mm-hmm.
Rehabilitate.
Yes. So I don't see the purpose to me, and I've never been in, so I don't know. But to be hard and to put somebody in the shoe, and instead of being like the warden that you were talking about, that just, oh yeah, Mr. Hollamon, called you Mister, instead of just inmate number or whatever.
Yep.
So I mean, did that help with your psyche as you were there?
How about far? Like we talk about humanity, that gave another sense of humanity. Being around a warden like that was laid back. And also too, you got to think about when I was at Coleman, you're doing time with, and you said there's 1,200 guys there. There's probably 400 that have life in prison. There's probably another 400 that's got 40 years or more. Mm-hmm. And you probably got some that's going home in the next few years, but most of these guys aren't going home, so they don't really care, about your rules. And if you, try to make it hard on them, they're going to make it hard on you. Yeah. The guards are going to always win. There's no question about that. But we can, as inmates, we can make it hard for you guys to do your job, and
you're going to earn that win.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when when you're like that, that's when staff members, when you're environment like that, that's when staff members start getting hurt. That's when things start happening, and you got to put other safety measures in place because you put someone that that's locked up for a long time, already there, and they don't care. It gets to be dangerous. It gets to be dangerous, for the inmates and the staff members both.
Yeah, when you have nothing to lose, you have nothing to threaten me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
what are you gonna do to me?
Give me another life.
All the ammunition is gone.
Yeah. So. And you were there, you were at Big Sandy for 5 years, mm-hmm. and you were at Coleman for a year, and a year to the day.
Which year to the day, yep.
And Bill, you asked, did you see, and you've shared, it's almost like Sandy was, a crazy day was a normal day there. Mm-hmm. Did you have anything like the softball incident, or did you have any kind of, without implicating or doing anything crazy, just something that people who are like us, who are like, as you mentioned, your mom, who said, hey, I think we said that maybe off camera, but we all have a general idea of what prison is. Mm-hmm. Was there anything that happened where you're like, okay, I'm never going to forget that?
You stayed so drunk. I mean, to me, of homemade wine, I can't even tell you really. I mean, sometimes that's a funny thing. You go outside, watch softball, somebody's drinking, and he just poof, strikes out. We're just all laughing at him. It was a non-stop laugh fest there. And I mean, it was just constantly something to laugh at, people were hanging out with. It was, like I said, I can't, to be in prison, we definitely had a better time than we were supposed to. But no, there's no really time, that I've seen anything that would, blow someone's mind. I guess no, like one real incident, because it was just, just a collage of events that unfolded, while I was there. But if you want, we can talk about November 1st, 2008 if you want.
Sure.
Maybe after that I can tell you a few things, but you know, there's a significance in that date. You know, in the book, you know, I talk about how I went to 4 or 5 cellmates you know, during my time at Coleman, and probably on my 3rd, 4th one, I was in a cell with a guy named Jimmy. And Jimmy was a mass murderer from the state of Louisiana. At that time, you know, I was not only, you know, drinking alcohol, doing drugs, and, you know, selling drugs while I was there. I was, you know, I was just in a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of everything. And when I was cellmates with Jimmy, we would drink all the time. That was our thing. And Jimmy, I do have a funny story to tell you about Jimmy real quick. So Jimmy, he loved doing heroin, and he had this thing. You know, he had these weird hustles. He would go through the trash cans and collect plastic bottles, take it in a recycling can. He would go in there and find trash that people might like. He would fix radios. He would clean cells.
Straight junkie behavior.
He would, exactly. He would do anything, you know, to get high. And he was a super laid back guy. And I remember another time that he had me, we're in front of the door, and we had to hit the intercom to get in the door. So while we're doing that, he goes, stand in front of the camera. So I just stand in front of the camera, just like that, while he's behind me. And he goes, okay. So he got the speaker from the door, so that when the cop spoke to you, that's where you hear it from. So he's, I can sell this for, you know, 4 or 5 books, which is about $20, $30. So anyhow, the next day, the officers called us back in there, called us into the lieutenant's office, and was like, hey, we got you on camera. And I was like, well, show me. I want to see what I'm doing. And sure enough, he showed me the camera. I'm like this, blocking. I'm blocking him. And then sure enough, the speaker's gone. So we got blamed for it. But neither one of us admitted. Yeah. But the lieutenant's like, look, man, we're not stupid. We know what you guys did. You're tearing up stuff. So I got a little mad at Jimmy. I said, man, offer a few books of stamps, man. Yeah. Come on, man. And all that you're going to do is go sell it and buy some heroin from somebody, because that's what he did. So I would be at work, or I would be doing random things on the rec yard, and when I came in, he'd be in the corner of the cell, and he had these 2 hand brushes that you know, for your hair. But when I walked in, he would be scrubbing his legs like this. Jimmy, what are you doing? Man, this feels so good. This feels so good. He would just sit there for hours and just brush himself. I just left him alone, though. I was like, man, he's having the time of his life. He's okay. He ain't hurt nobody. You know, he's a super laid back guy. He ain't hurt nobody. He ain't killed nobody. So he said he was okay. So I go here and change my clothes real quick, do what I got to do, and I shoot back out the cell. So November 1st, 2008. November 1st, 2008, we were locked down for the night. They locked the doors at 9:30, 10 o'clock. And, you know, we read from our books. You know, I'm on the bottom bunk. He's on the top bunk. We usually had, you know, the routine of staying up to about 10:30, 11 o'clock. Last person out cuts the light off. So we try not to stay up past 12, because you're trying to sleep. You don't want the light on your cellmate's face. So that night, I asked Jimmy about his crime. And I told you before, it's not unheard of to start asking about somebody's crime if we're close to them. I felt comfortable enough to ask Jimmy if he felt bad for killing 3 people. And there were family members. You know, I expected a response of regret or remorse, and, you know, someone that, you know, showed just he felt something for something that he did, you know, for killing someone. I couldn't imagine me killing someone. I don't know how that would, you know, be on my mind, you know, constantly. So I asked him that, and he bluntly said, no, I don't feel bad for killing people. I just cut their life short. I'm like, you cut their life short? He goes, yeah, they're going to die anyhow. I just cut their life short.
Jeez.
I was like, man, that's cold shit, Jimmy. That's cold shit. Well, he turned around on me, kind of looked down on, you know, from the bunk, and he was just like, well, what about you? You feel bad for selling drugs? I said, no, I don't feel bad. I said, man, you know, if what I did is nonviolent, you know, if I didn't sell someone drugs, they would give it to someone else anyhow. So, you know, I don't feel bad. So I thought that would be the end of the conversation, but Jimmy jumped down off the bunk, and he got serious with me, almost like he wanted to fight. And, you know, I jumped up with him and I was like, you know, what the hell's going on? He goes, look, just because you are not legally responsible for what I did, I killed somebody, you know, morally and ethically, you are just as much to blame. I said, what do you mean by that? He goes, because I was high on drugs when I did that. I said, that still has nothing to do with me. He goes, no, if you listen though, if I would not have bought drugs from people like you on the outside, I would have never killed someone. But someone like you made drugs more abundant and more plentiful where I was able to obtain them. He goes, I never would have killed somebody if I was high. So, you know, we argued a little bit back and forth, and, you know, we ended up not fighting. He got back on his bunk and I got on mine, and you know, I ended up cutting the light off a few minutes later, but I just sat there thinking about what he said, and I thought about, you know, the 3 people that he killed, his family members, and the question went through my mind, you know, is Jimmy right? Am I morally and ethically, you know, responsible for something that he did? Am I morally and responsible, you know, just as culpable for things that other people did while they were high on drugs? Have I sold drugs to somebody and, you know, they might have gotten a car wreck? You know, as far as I know, any of the drugs that I sold, no one overdosed on. But just as much, they might have had to steal from their families to support their habit. They might have had to rob a bank to support their habit. They might have had, you know, to steal and do other things, nefarious things to obtain money. I've never thought of selling drugs as harmful. But having this conversation with someone that killed 3 people that was high as shit on drugs, high on meth, it changed everything for me. It changed my perspective on, you know, on my role that I played in the decay of America with drugs. I say November 1st, 2008, it's a date that I'll never, you know, forget. You know, we always remember, you know, 9/11. You know, we always remember have these dates in our mind that are personal to us. And for me, November 1st, 2008, I will remember that day the rest of my life, because it was a big turning point. And it could have been just another day for me where I forgot that conversation. But I tell you this, you know, from, you know, a lot of people that, you know, quit doing drugs or to turn their life around, they have that incident. And sometimes it might be a car wreck. Sometimes it might be a family member dying. It might be something significant where it impacts that individual. And for me, it was a conversation with someone. I didn't admit to all this crazy mess. I've almost been killed a couple of times. I've been shot at. I've done, you know, drug deals, you know, with these crazy ass, you know, dudes. The federal government arrested me. That didn't change me. Being sentenced to 40 years didn't change me. Of all things, to impact me the most was a conversation was with a cellmate that killed 3 people. I stayed up the rest of that night thinking about my role in America, what I did.
Did you feel, I could imagine, going from mad, like, why would you say that, to guilt, like, holy shit?
I was mad at him. I was mad initially because I was like, who is he? Who's he?
You had what arguably had the moral high ground when you asked that question. Like, look, I sold drugs. They never found any guns. No, I'm not violent.
Right. It went from anger to knowing this dude's right. I would eventually move from Jimmy, you know, after some time, but that day forward, I quit drinking, quit doing drugs while I was there. And like, it was just like a switch almost, where it was just hanging out with people, you know, like with Jaw too, Aaron Circle. You know, it wasn't that bad at first, because it was just, you know, I would be around people not doing it. But after a couple of weeks, guys started saying, hey man, you know, we're starting to see you less. Or when you're with us, you don't drink anymore. You know what I mean? And because I had the excuse of, I got to go to education. I got to do this and that. And I found myself, you know, pulling myself further back and further back and further back. So I would hide in places like education. I would hide at work for as long as I could. When I went to the chow hall, when I ate, I just took my time. If I was one of the first people there, I was the last people to leave. You know, it took almost an hour to feed the entire compound. I just sit there on my tray. I just didn't want to go outside, you know, or to the red car where everybody else went. And then when you know, they called final call, you know, I was like the last person out the door. I would just walk slowly wherever I was going. I didn't want to beat on anybody. I didn't beat on anybody, and not had anything against anyone there. You know, I just got, you know, thinking about the consequences that I had to pay in my life because of drugs and alcohol, and how how much of a negative thing it's been for me. And I've had some great times on drugs, but there's been more bad times and more, negative consequences, because of it. I mean, I'm sitting here in federal prison doing 40 years. I mean, what more of a negative consequence do I need? But here I am, I'm at a prison, I'm drinking, I'm having a good time like I was on the outside. I'm doing drugs, and not only am I doing drugs, I'm doing other drugs I never did on the street. So it was just a recipe for disaster. So I slowly just backed myself off from doing drugs, from hanging out with the same people, and eventually I would quit the gang. I would quit, area and circle. I would turn my back on them. And
while you were at Coleman?
While I was at Coleman, and that was a huge thing for me because, I was already an outcast of society, and I became a pariah in prison. And I say that because when I turned my back on the area and circle, everybody else followed suit and fuck with me because the area and circle has so much influence, and everybody wanted to, I guess, be cool with everybody. And I was okay with that. I was okay with that. People trying to leave me alone, and I was lonely as shit, but I was okay. I was I quit doing drugs. I quit drinking alcohol, and I deal with these other problems, but I was okay. I was the solitude. I welcomed that. I welcomed that. So I went a couple months without, really talking to anyone.
You mentioned in your book you would sit at lunch with like the Christians or the whoever.
Well, I would sit what we call it was the older white table, and some former gang member dropouts.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, it was okay, to do that, because there was other former gang members too there, on the yard with me. I didn't talk to them too much. Like I said, I sat there and ate. That was all I did. I don't really communicate with anyone. I didn't want any friends at that time. I still talked to John too every now and then, but everybody else, no, just kind of let everybody alone. But fortunately, around that time, my prison points changed, and during that time, they put me in for a transfer.
You had your Road to Damascus event happen. You said it was November 1st, 2008?
Exactly, right? Yep.
How long were you at Coleman after that happened before you eventually transferred again?
2 or 3 months. Yeah, I would say at the most 90 days. Yeah, at the most 90 days. So it wasn't too long, after the incident, in November 1st. But it was kind of a long time for me because that was, like I said, just be by myself all the time. I wasn't locked down or anything like that. It was just, the solitude of being by myself, my own thoughts, and figure things out. And it was difficult because I didn't exactly know when I was leaving or if I was leaving. The counselors pulled me up, said my prison points have changed, a little bit after that. And, it can take up to a year to transfer.
What do you mean prison points changed?
You have different categories where, obviously the highest, yes, the penitentiary, they're a bit low, you can go to a medium. Lower than that, you go to a low. Lower than that, you actually go to a camp. So mine went from my penitentiary points to me. I stayed out of trouble for so many years, and I was able to go to a medium. So I was able to put in for a medium, but it could have taken a no amount of time. I put in for this place in Estelle, South Carolina, which is on the border of Georgia and South Carolina. And I chose this place because there's only 5 or 10 prisons left in the whole federal system that has weights. I haven't seen a weight set in years. So if I was going to go to a prison, that's the one I wanted to go to.
How many push-ups do you think you did?
I don't know. I don't even know. But usually when you're incarcerated, you do push-ups. There's an exercise called a burpee.
Yeah.
Your burpee is a big exercise. I mean, it's bigger than because it's a jump, pretty much a jump down, push up, and you come back up. So that's kind of what the measure stick is in federal prison. Is a burpee. I hate burpees.
I haven't met a person that likes burpees.
You ain't signing up for CrossFit anytime soon.
If they're from California, you like burpees. So many of the California guys, they had burpees down to the T. They'd sit there and do hundreds a day. So yeah, I put in for Coleman, or I put in for Estelle, from Coleman, but didn't know when I was leaving. In the book, I talk about when I was finally told I was going there, and how the counselor or case manager approached me and told me that I'll be leaving very soon.
If there's one thing that you learned from your stint at Coleman, what would that be?
To not let any circumstance define you. And I say that in a good way before all this, my change process started and afterwards. And I say this because I was around a lot of these, older convicts and people that's going to be locked up for a long time. They didn't let this dampen their spirits. They kept living the best they could. I mean that by they kept on trying to make money, some good, some bad. They try to keep smiles on their faces. Just because you're in prison don't mean you're done living. You can still, live while you're there. You still have a good time. And then, after my change process, started, when I decided, to abstain from alcohol and drugs, it was a new reset for me. When I first got locked up, it was kind of a reset. I'm not going to be involved with drugs and alcohol anymore, and we'll see where this road takes me. It felt good that I finally decided at 31, 32, actually I was 31 years old, that I'm done with drugs. I'm ready for the next part of my life. And, the next part of my life, it came with a new prison in Estelle. I would get on that bus at Coleman sometime in late December, or early January, and looking for a clean slate, if you will, around new inmates and a different mentality of people. And I was leaving a penitentiary, and that was huge. A lot of guys get a penitentiary, it's hard for them to leave because they constantly keep getting in trouble. Mm-hmm. They constantly keep their prison points up, and once you get in that hole, it takes a couple of years for your points to change at all. While I was there, I didn't meet too many guys going from medium to a penitentiary. It just don't happen a whole lot. Guys get in that world and get sucked up. Like say if I, would have got caught, doing certain things that I did, I would have never left the penitentiary. If I got caught with a knife a few times, if I got caught with an incident with a child molester, selling drugs, fortunately, that's part of me being unscathed. It wasn't so much physically, but, it was also, I remained unscathed by remaining out of trouble what I was doing. I didn't get caught for some of the things, and it caught with me. Eventually, I wouldn't get caught by the authorities, but that lifestyle would eventually, catch up. And I was given an opportunity to go to a medium, an opportunity that a lot of guys that I associated with was not afforded. I got on that prison bus at Coleman, and just like leaving Big Sandy, I was looking forward to something different.
Yeah.
Looking forward to a different lifestyle, a new chapter, and didn't know what Estelle held for me. I just knew something new was on the horizon, and
they had a preacher curl machine.
And
let's be honest.
Yeah, but go ahead.
We think of gang. We've heard blood in, blood out, right? The only way out of this gang or out of this, and you left the gang. So going from Sandy to Coleman, your reputation preceded. Your paperwork looked good. This guy, even though you'd been unscathed, that's not because you didn't put in work or weren't willing to. Now, number one, what was it like leaving the gang? Because to me, I'm like, wait, you're not allowed to do that. Everything we've heard. Yeah,
you're allowed, and this is what most gangs do. When you leave a gang, I had a patch on my arm. It had the lightning bolts, which stands for the 13 words, and also it says, "Thank God I'm white." So usually it was area circles. We have a diamond. It was a diamond around the lightning bolts, and that was our patch. So usually they would force me to put retired stamp on there. That's usually the result of it. They never asked me to do that. But maybe if I'd been there longer, they would have said, "Hey, Chad, understand you're not in the gang no more. Get that thing covered up." Or I could just get a regular covered up. But the length of time that I was there after I turned my back on them to when I left, it was not a whole lot of time. But in time, it would have happened where I'd get it patched up. And it's not really blood in, blood out. Some gangs it might be, and sometimes it depends on the individuals. When I was at Coleman, there were some pretty hard dudes that were part of Area Circle, but there was about 3 or 4 of them going home, pretty soon. And, a couple of them were just drunks. They drank all the time. And also, too, I talk about the rules that we're supposed to have. I saw some of these same guys break rules that we weren't supposed to do. So it made me lose respect for them a little bit. And they weren't my friends, so-called friends like they were at Big Sandy. So it didn't bother me, you know. Well, the consequences, fine, you know. I did carry on the shank a little bit more, and I watched my back whenever I saw, two of them around me. I watched my back a little bit more. You might jump me, but I'm gonna be ready for you. So I did expect that. And this is what you call run off the yard. And so I expected them to prove a point with me, leaving them. But I was going to get you a little bit. You know what I mean? You won't get me all the way. You won't get me all the way. I'm going to give you something to remember me by. Think about I wasn't weak. I think that might have happened where they got some people on me, but then maybe, me being a certain size, they thought twice about it.
Yeah.
Should say. And believe it or not, two of those area and circle members I keep in contact with today.
Really?
Yep. They're not affiliated with a gang anymore. And, it's more of a prison type thing.
Yeah.
But when they get out, you got to go get a job. You're going to be an area circle member when you get out. You got to do certain things. Now, there are some guys that run with that area circle to the day they die. They'll keep on doing what they got to do to make money, for the gang and do certain things. But a handful are there just because, just being in prison. They see something in a certain number of guys and they can relate to, just like myself. But no, they've gotten out. They've had to do their own thing. And, so a couple of them, like I said, I keep in contact with.
So you went to a new prison. It's called Estelle on the border of South Carolina and Georgia.
Yep.
Were you worried that there was going to be word sent like, hey, he was in this.
Yeah.
He's not in it now, and he just transferred. Yeah. Something's up.
I was definitely, worried about that. And what's crazy, I said, man, I've been to 2 penitentiaries. Now I'm going to a media, and I'm worried about what someone thinks. We're going with the softer places, too, and I'm worried about it. So I said, all right, just consequence, whatever happens, happens. Let's bring it on. Bring it on. Whoever I meet, that is fine. That is fine. And we can talk about it still in the next episode, or we can get into it now. It's up to you guys.
Really good stopping place for
this
episode.
I could keep it going forever. And guys, check out his book. The story you described with the gentleman. He was on a bunk above you.
Yeah.
I remember reading that and just thinking, because you put yourself in the story and thinking, yeah, that's a great question. Like, how did you feel killing someone? And he's like, well, dude, you ain't exactly like spotless. Like, you've done a bunch of stuff too. So check out the book.
Self-reflective when you're asking that question. Someone just mirrors that question back and you're like, shit.
Yeah. So guys, check out the book. Check out in the description. I'll put his number down. He'll sign it for you. He's doing all kinds of book signings, and we'll have to do a show again on what it's like being a published author and trying to get that
so
stuff
many
out.
places we could go with this. And guys, also too, if you have a question for Chad, or if you want to pick his brain about something.
That's a great idea, man.
Leave a comment down below, and we'll get it to him. We'll ask him. We'll ask him on air, so you guys can watch it. Yeah, a little Q&A. So, guys, do us a big favor. Hit that subscribe button.
Smash the like button.
And we'll see you on the next video.
Peace.